This is the newsroom for Friday, May 28, 2021. We're broadcasting to you on E1, Scar TV, NTN, and Tarzi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, severe overstaffing at the Guyana Water Inc. is forcing management to terminate the services of over 100 employees. The rainy season has resulted in severe flooding in 9 out of 10 administrative regions across the country. Former Health Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy says the COVID-19 ICU and the healthcare system will become overwhelmed if the rate of infections continue to surge.
We cannot be ready for a surge that keeps growing.
In tonight's feature, we tell you how a young mother overcame postpartum depression by engaging in the art of yoga. And in sport, the Guyana Lottery Company will be sponsoring Chelsea Edgel for 1 year. And the coach Marcio Maximo ring changes for Golden Jaguar in the second round of their World Cup qualifiers. With the news, I'm Kurt Campbell. We're glad you can join us. First up, the Guyana Water Inc. on Thursday confirmed moves to send home more than 100 employees as it battles high levels of expenditure created by burdensome overstaffing at the utility company. Details in this report. Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Water Incorporated, Sheikh Bash, said the company's employment numbers had risen from just about 600 in 2015 to 1,300 by August 2020, prompting the much-needed rationalization of employees, which started 8 months ago. He said employment costs had also moved from $96 million in 2015 to $240 million by 2020, representing a staggering 140% increase. In addition to costs, Bash said the cutting back on employment numbers was also considered because of its link to productivity ratio, which also increased between 2015 and 2020.
For the financial operations of GWI, we have to look at the expenses, not only employment costs, but we're looking at energy costs, we're looking at other areas of operations, chemical usage, and all of these things. And therefore, we had to proceed in this, and we reached a stage where a number of employees will have to be terminated in accordance with the law, that is the Termination of Employment and Severance Pay Act. We operated within a legal framework and after consultation.
Providing further clarity on the move, Executive Director of Human Resources Elvis Jordan said the issue of overstaffing had also led to the overlapping of functions, which further led to inefficiency and unnecessary spending. He said based on internal studies, GWI management believes that its staffing could comfortably be reduced to 994, which means that over 300 staffers would have to be sent home. As of April 30, 2021, the utility company had managed to reduce staffing to 1,156, due largely to natural attrition, with persons resigning and retiring. According to Human Resources Director, the company engaged the union and other stakeholders before terminating the employees. Jordan explained that meetings were also held with the staff, who were informed of management's position and the way forward.
We would have informed the union as well as the Ministry of Labour. We had gotten a feedback from the union with no objection. We had several meetings with staff early in the year, bringing them to understand the position of the company and what is the way forward with the company.
Asked about persons with over 10 years of service, Jordan said there are a few persons on the termination list who have over a decade of service to GWI. He said in any event, long-serving staff members would be asked to go on early retirement. Several communities across all regions of Guyana, except Region 8 Pataro-Siparuni, have been flooded following continuous rainfall and high tides over the past week. Vashani Ragbir has our story.
In regions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10, the continuous rainfall has resulted in considerable damage to property, the loss of crops and livestock, and disruption to lives and livelihoods. On Friday, teams from the Ministries of Housing and Water and Agriculture visited several affected communities and committed to examining the drainage system there. Already, some works to clear the drainage canals have commenced. Meanwhile, on Wednesday via a Facebook post, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, Deodat Indar, related that excavators were deployed across the country to clear trenches, culverts, and other drainage arteries in response to the nationwide flooding. Meanwhile, over the past 2 weeks, Region 9, Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo, has been grappling with the effects of increased water from the Rio Negro and Branco rivers in Brazil, and exacerbated by heavy rainfall. Though the regional authorities alongside the Civil Defense Commission (CDC) have been trying to support residents of the region, the flooding has exacerbated existing challenges of the region, including the spread of vector-borne diseases. Regional Chairman Brian Allicock told the newsroom about these challenges.
Because of the COVID, these other diseases and parasites were forgotten.
Right.
And so if we have an outbreak of dengue in the region at the moment, so we are trying with it. Some of my staff, they got it. And, but we are addressing the matters because what we're doing, we have to recommence fogging so that we could control the mosquito population. So that is in plan.
In light of the flooding experienced around the country, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony has urged residents to take all the necessary precautions to protect against waterborne diseases.
Well, generally because if water supplies have been contaminated, people would be drinking that contaminated water. A lot of times, because their sewage or their toilets can be flooded, it mixes with the water that probably they would be using to drink. So we have to make sure that if that is happening, that they get a better source of water. Some people have been capturing rainwater, and if you have rainwater, it also means that you can add bleach to the water, so whatever bacteria is in the water, you can kill the bacteria so that you get water that is free from contaminants. In addition to that, a simple thing is to boil water. Once you boil it, it would kill the bacteria in the water, and therefore when you drink that boiled water, it's going to be safe. So for those communities that have experienced flooding, I would urge that you take those extra precautions to keep your water supply safe. If you do that, then we'll see that we'll not see an increase in the diarrheal diseases, especially in children.
The CDC has been providing food and cleaning supplies to affected residents across the region. These efforts are expected to continue as the rainy season progresses and residents are continuously affected. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Vishani Raghabir.
We tell you now that Guyana currently has enough capacity to deal with the current surge of COVID-19 cases, especially those who are severely ill and require treatment in the intensive care unit ICU. However, advisor to the Minister of Health, Dr. Leslie Ramsamy, says that the local health system would not be able to cater for a sustained surge, and as such, he's calling on all eligible adults to get vaccinated.
No country in the world has been able to keep up with a sustained surge. The rich nations like America wasn't able to do that. We see what's happening in India, and we see what's happening next door to us in Trinidad. We saw what happened in Brazil. Countries can get overwhelmed. And if the surge continues in Guyana, we will be overwhelmed. So I don't want to sugarcoat things by saying, yes, we are ready for it. We cannot be ready for a surge that keeps growing. Because unlike some other illness, this one drives a significant number of persons into the ICU. ICU capacity in any country, it doesn't matter which country you're talking about, is not an unlimited capacity. See, if it's a regular hospital bed, we can go and pick up cots and put 2 or 3 in a room. But an ICU is not a regular room. It requires all kinds of equipment. And you can't put any doctor in an ICU.
Still ahead on the newsroom, the victims of the Sharon Small fire are seeking compensation, and Dr. Ramsamy explains the delay in administering the second dose of the Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine. Back, you're watching the newsroom. Following the completion of investigations into the fire that ravaged the Sharon Small, tenants who suffered millions of dollars in losses are now seeking compensation. Attorney at law Dexter Todd, whose office was also completely destroyed, told the newsroom on Friday that the tenants are expected to commence discussions with the proprietor shortly. Shamika Day has our story.
Attorney at law Dexter Todd, whose office was completely destroyed in the Sharon Small fire, related to the newsroom that the tenants are not ruling out fruitful discussions with the proprietor regarding compensation.
We are still to have a very detailed and collaborative meeting with all the occupants of that building. I think if we go at looking at compensation and a resolution to this matter by ourselves, it will take a long time, one, and two, I think it's going to be an exercise that could have been a lot more saved if we were to collaboratively deal with this matter. I do not want to rule out at this point in time a very fruitful negotiations with the parties involved. That would be the proprietors, of course. I think from all indications, and this is immediately after the fire, the management of Sharon's mall reached out, at least to me, and I'm sure did so on many of the occupants. And that is, I believe, was an open door for us to engage and to have a conversation. We were all waiting for the fire report to be completed. The fire report is now completed, and we now know what seems to be the cause of it.
During an interview with the newsroom on Friday, Todd said the tenants were waiting on the release of the report into the fire. The investigations were completed last week, and the report of the Guyana Fire Service confirmed that the fire was indeed electrical in nature. The fire chief, Kalamadine Idu, had told the newsroom that the fire was caused by a slack electrical slot inside the building that sparked and ignited materials on the first floor. The fire then spread to the upper levels until it completely destroyed the building. The fire chief had disclosed too that the building was not equipped with the requisite fire safety equipment. However, the owner had refuted this claim in some sections of the media. Asked whether he can confirm that the building was outfitted with the fire safety materials, Todd had this to say.
Well, I have no reason to doubt what the findings are in relation to the report. These are not things that I think a tenant would be really looking for, because most of the tenants, I don't believe, would have asked to see a proper building plan to make sure all your codes are tenants commonly don't really look at these things. So I have no reason to doubt the reports of the findings of the investigative officer.
The Sharon's Mall, located on the corner of King and Charlotte Streets, Georgetown, was completely gutted at around 19:30 hours on April 28. The fire reportedly started at around 1600 hours. 4 firefighters were injured attempting to quell the blaze. The fire was merely thick black smoke emanating from the building, but later on a loud explosion was heard, and a huge fire engulfed the top flat of the building and traveled down, sending shards of hot glass flying into the streets. The Sharon's Mall housed law offices, clothing stores, electronic stores, salons, and cafes, all of which were completely destroyed, resulting in millions of losses. Tenants had relayed to the newsroom that the building could have been saved if the fire service had managed to properly control the fire. Reporting for the newsroom, Shakima Day.
There is currently a delay in the shipment of a batch of the second dose of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine, but advisor to the Minister of Health, Dr. Ramsamy, highlighted that people who are due to receive the second dose can wait up to a maximum of 12 weeks instead of just 4 weeks as written on their vaccination cards. Vashani Raghavir tells us more.
Already, Guyana has received 205,000 doses of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine, out of an expected 800,000 doses purchased by the government. Of this amount, 149,000 are the first dose, while 58,000 are the second dose, or the booster shot required to extend an individual's immunity. Unlike the AstraZeneca and Sinopharm vaccines also used locally, the second dose of the Sputnik vaccine is different from the first, Dr. Ramsamy explained.
What has happened is we have set a timeline, a schedule for vaccine to arrive in the country, both first dose and second doses. And for this last one, which was supposed to arrive last week, we have had a slight delay. So anytime, even perhaps before this news get out to people, we might receive the ETA, the estimated time of arrival for the second dose. Notwithstanding that, our campaign continues because we have enough vaccines for second doses for AstraZeneca. Now, you recall that we started the rollout in March, so that in June, about 30,000 people are due for their second dose of AstraZeneca with a 12-week interval. So right now, anyone who's due to have Sinopharm can come as indicated in their blue book. Anybody with AstraZeneca, if the date in your blue book, if you have already passed 8 weeks, you can come now for your vaccine. So the only condition on Sinopharm is that you would have already passed 21 days. The only condition for AstraZeneca is you would have already passed 8 weeks. That's the minimum. And in the case of Sputnik, that you would have already passed 4 weeks. What we don't want is anyone to exceed 4 weeks with Sinopharm. What we don't want is anyone to exceed 12 weeks with AstraZeneca, and the same thing with Sputnik.
According to a press statement from the Gamaleya Research Center, which developed the Sputnik V vaccine, it is possible to increase the minimum interval between the first and second vaccine shots from the earlier approved 21 days up to 3 months. Director of the Gamaleya Research Center, Dr. Alexander Ginsberg, noted that an extension of the interval will not affect the vaccine-induced immune response, and in some cases it will enhance and prolong it. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Vishani Raghavir.
Leading a regional dialogue on Friday as head of government in the Caribbean Community Kwasi Cabinet with responsibility for agriculture, President Irfan Ali has said that the first step to ensuring food security and sustainability is to eat local. The virtual regional dialogue is a precursor to the United Nations 2021 Food Systems Summit being held in September as part of the Decade of Action to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Here are the details. President Irfan Ali believes a regional dialogue on food security presents a more important opportunity in that it not only allows for the region to synchronize its position in relation to the upcoming United Nations 2021 Food Systems Summit, but also to once again examine solutions to strengthen food security and respond to threats posed by climate change. The Guyanese head of state, in a passionate appeal, said it is time that inhabitants of the Caribbean region remind themselves of the importance of eating local, regionally, and utilizing products from CARICOM.
Or the values of eating local, the values of eating regionally, the values of utilizing our own products. And we have to take strong measures, anti-dumping measures. We cannot continue to eat third quality or second quality food when we can produce first quality food. We have to be brave. We have to be brave in addressing these issues. We can't walk along the sidelines anymore. We have to confront these issues.
Dr. Ali was supported in his urgings by Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, who said that as efforts unfold to bring about food security in the region, it must be done in the right way, using food that would reduce the monies spent to fight non-communicable diseases.
All food is not good food. We have a rich history of using ground provisions and eating a lot of fish and eating things that are generally healthy. But we became sucked in by the glamour and glitz of a world that wants us to eat processed foods and an oversupply of salt and an oversupply of a lot of things that, like fizzy beverages, that are simply not good for our people. And I ask us, as we seek to bring about food security for our people in this region, that we remember, let us do it the right way.
Dr. Ali explained that while efforts can be taken within the region to tackle food security, the Caribbean community needs the help of external agencies, especially in light of its vulnerability to climate change. He called on member states to band together in strengthening the regional resolve in advocating for financing in order to develop food resilience. Although delivering separate statements in unison, the Guyanese head of state and the Barbadian Prime Minister urged the dismantling of barriers to trade of regional agriculture commodities.
Commitment to removal of trade impediments, red tape, budget support, our transport and logistics infrastructure and system, an integrated market. I know my sister, Prime Minister Mottley, is passionate about the CSME, but we have to work in the region with an integrated market and understand that our self-fulfillment of that market by production, increasing production level, is critical.
As the lead Prime Minister for the CARICOM Single Market and Single Economy, that I continue to work tirelessly with all parties who are interested in helping us to provide the maritime and the air transport necessary to ensure that our farmers can have access to the largest possible markets that they can, while at the same time ensuring that our people can have access to as much regionally produced food as possible.
The regional dialogue was hosted by the CARICOM Secretariat in partnership with the United Nations Resident Coordinators, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the World Food Programme, and the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture. Ideas, solutions, and action plans emanating from this dialogue will feed into the Global Forum, as well as a pre-summit event scheduled for July in Rome to ensure that the voice of the Caribbean is well heard. This event is taking place as countries worldwide seek to strengthen health and agriculture food systems in wake of disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Participants included the Ministers of Agriculture of Guyana, Antigua and Barbuda, Jamaica and the Bahamas, representatives of CARICOM, IICA, OECS, the United Nations Development Coordination Office, WFP, and FAO, as well as farmers groups, civil society organizations, and the private sector. When the newsroom returns, we tell you how a young mother overcame postpartum depression by engaging in the art of yoga. You're watching the newsroom. Peter Ramsarup, as the Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Office for Investment, GoInvest, is urging Guyanese, regardless of their political persuasion, to buy into the vision of President Irfan Ali, a vision he believes is acute for Guyana's development at this time. With 25 approved projects facilitated by GoInvest since the change in government in August 2020, Dr. Ramsarup said the majority of those projects, although in the agriculture sector, involves Guyanese. He believes there are still gaps that needs to be filled and has urged his fellow countrymen and women to get on board.
I would say to all citizens in Guyana, this is not about business opportunities alone from an investment perspective. You know, take time and study the president's budget and his vision for Guyana and see where you fit. Everyone have a chance to develop in this process. And you know, there are many agencies, the Small Business Bureau, you know, the private sector, GoInvest. There are many agencies that is out there to help facilitate your growth in a business environment. And, you know, I would say join on. I mean, it's across the board. The president's the president for all of Guyana. And as I go around to all the regions, I tell folks this has nothing to do with politics. Guyana is on the move. It's our job to jump on the train and says, I want part of Guyana.
Ramsroof said the highlight of his work in recent months has been to watch President Ali pursue his aggressive economic agenda and deliver on the commitments he has made while allowing all ministries and agencies to fulfill the vision. The investment agency GoInvest falls under the Office of the President and has been in conjunction with other agencies pushing both local and foreign direct investment in recent months. Guyana has emerged in the top spot as the country with the highest ranking on an International Safety Oversight Index for the Civil Aviation Authority's strong safety capabilities, besting all 35 countries in the South America, Latin America, Caribbean, and North American regions. According to the Director General of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, GCAA, Captain Egbert feels this is the first time Guyana has copped such an achievement. Here is Shamika Day.
Director General of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Egbert Fields, explained to the newsroom that the ranking for safety oversight capabilities of a state indicates its minimum expected capabilities, taking into consideration the number of departures as a proxy to the size of the country's aviation system, along with the training of aviation officers. The Safety Oversight Index also compares a country's effective implementation score and traffic volume to a Safety Oversight Target score, all of which the director noted Guyana received high rankings in.
What happened when this was done at the last meeting, and it's done on an annual basis, Guyana came out ranking very high among the 35 states. It was the highest rated. We were somewhere about I think it's about three point something on the what we call the Safety Oversight Index. The other two areas, which are the air navigation services, which deals with our airspace, etc., and the other supporting functions for the authority, those two came out at very high scores. But the most important score is the safety oversight. It says what capacity exists within that state to ensure safety within their airspace and for aircraft passing through.
The Director General, while noting that he is honored that Guyana achieved such a feat, stated that this is the first time that the country has ranked at the top for aviation safety.
For Guyana to have ranked at #1 in that, I must say it was a pleasant surprise. Even though for me, I know it wasn't a full surprise because my inspectors are well trained. A lot of finance went into their training. They conduct their inspections in the way it should be inspected, that it should be done, and they are an excellent I'd say, team. So as we continue along this road, as my regional director indicated, we are such a good example for the rest of the Caribbean and the rest of the region. So as we continue along this road, we will definitely see better results. Even though we're higher, I still aim for the skies.
The Safety Oversight Index is listed in 3 functional categories. Those are operations, which looks at personnel licensing and training, aircraft operations and airworthiness of aircraft, air navigation, which looks at aerodomes, ground aids and air navigation systems, and finally support functions, which looks at primary aviation legislation, civil aviation regulations and aircraft accident and incident investigations. For the newsroom, I am Shikima Day.
The birth of a baby can trigger a jumble of powerful emotions, from excitement and joy to fear and anxiety, but it can also result in something you might not expect: depression. Most new mothers experience postpartum baby blues after childbirth, which commonly include mood swings, crying spells, anxiety, and difficulty sleeping. And this was the same for 26-year-old Adriana Gomes, known as Annie. When her postpartum depression hit, Annie turned to her family's tradition of practicing the art of yoga, and that helped her to overcome it, even pushing her into a new business venture as a yoga instructor. The newsroom caught up with Annie at her quaint Queenstown, Georgetown yoga studio, where she told her story.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Adrienne Gomes, but you can call me Annie. I am a mother, I am a wife, and I have quite a few hobbies. I love to read, I love to write, I love to dance, but overall I love yoga, and thus by extension I am a yoga instructor. I have been through quite a few things, and I found that I needed in my life from very early on something to ground me, something to guide me, and that's how I ended up finding my way onto yoga. Yoga is something that has been passed on to me. My grandmother practiced, her mother practiced, my mother practiced. So it's something that's been in the generation all the time. So it was natural that I would find my way into it. Even my sister practices as well. So it would be natural that I would be a practitioner of yoga. I began teaching when I was pregnant with my son, and it was interesting to say the least because my belly was out there. I was going through all the things you would expect a new mother to be going through. So it was an interesting time to be launching out, not just to teach, but this is my business as well. So it was an interesting time to start, but I had started then. So for the yoga postures, a lot of them are things that you have to consistently work on. So there are simple ones like downward facing dog, uttanasana or forward folds, the seated versions, the standing versions, there are arm balances, there are supine or lying back postures. They're all the ways you can think the body can move and twist. It can be a yoga posture. And so for the more simple ones, like say for example, the downward facing dog or the forward fold, those sorts of postures are always going to be repeated in your practice. When I became a mother, I had the worst postpartum depression you could imagine. I had the worst postpartum identity crisis, loss, everything. It went very downhill when I got pregnant and when I had the baby. I completely lost my balance, my gentle balance, I would say. I had my practice. And so I was able to get up every day, of course, consulting with my physician. I was like, can I do this? She was like, yes, go ahead, do what you have to do. And I practice. If you practice and you're able to find yourself again, then you have no choice but to hold on to this thing. And that's how it ended up being for me.
When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back to the newsroom now for a look at what's happening in sport. We start things off with some football news. Former captain Samuel Cox is among 6 changes to the Golden Jaguar squad for the second round of the CONCACAF FIFA World Cup 2020 qualifiers next month in St. Kitts and Nevis. The details in this report.
The squad was released by the Guyana Football Federation on Thursday afternoon. In the first round of the qualifiers, which were hosted in the Dominican Republic in March, Jaguars lost their first match to Trinidad and Tobago 3-0, but rebounded to defeat the Bahamas 4-0 in their second match. Second round action will see Guyana play both of its matches in St. Kitts and Nevis, first of which will be host nation on June 4, followed by Puerto Rico on June 8. Jaguars are currently third in the group with 3 points and must win their remaining matches in order to possibly top the group and progress to the next round of the qualifiers. The Golden Jaguars squad reads goalkeepers Akid Clark, Kyle Mackenzie Lyle, and Sean Adonis. The defenders come from Miguel Scarlett, Matthew Briggs, Liam Gordon, Nikolai Andrews, Billy Spencer Adams, Terence Van Kooten, Kevin Lane. The midfielders will see Nathan Mariah Welsh, Devere George, Daniel Wilson, Job Caesar, Marcus Wilson, Pernell Schultz. The forwards are Stephen Duke McKinnon, Keanu Marsh Brown, Omari Glasgow, Kelsey Benjamin, Osafa Simpson, Treon Bob, and Ermi Welshman. Those that have been included for this round of matches are Liam Gordon, Kevin Lane, Javier George, Marcus Wilson, Stephen Duke McKenna, and Osafa Simpson. Those omitted are Kadil Daniel, Sam Cox, Ryan Hackett, Callum Harriott, Jeremy Garrett, and Nicholas McArthur. The technical staff will come from Ian Greenwood, Technical Director, Marcio Maximo, Head Coach, Charles Pollard, Assistant Coach, Ion De Vera, Goalkeeper Coach. The medical staff will comprise of coaches Sandy Ford, Team Doctor, Lead Physiotherapist Denzel Hernandez, Physiotherapist Kwesi Paddy, and Pablino Copidor, the Team Medic. Wilson Toldio will head the Sports Science Department, while recruitment is led by Faisal Khan. Operations will see Roll Adams be the Team Operations Manager and Nasir Brewster, the Assistant Team Operations Manager. Trevor Burnett will deal with equipment, and Kieran Williams will act as Media Officer. The match days are June 4 against St. Kitts and Nevis at 16 hours, and then on June 8 where they face Puerto Rico from 16 hours as well. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
Olympic bound national table tennis player Chelsea Edgell has secured a one-year sponsorship deal with the Guyana Lottery Company. The partnership is intended to aid her preparation for the July-August showcase in Tokyo. Akim Green has details.
The Guyana Lottery Company, through its Let's Bet Sport brand ambassador, Raul Tony, did not disclose the cost of the sponsorship but stated it was substantial and it caters for the brand and acquisition of her training apparatus. Tony described the 23-year-old as a great, given the significance of her achievement to qualify for the Olympic Games, the first table tennis player from Guyana to do so.
The only requirement is her to continue being a great role model, continue being an exemplary athlete. As you know, she would have excelled through in academia and more so in the sport of table tennis throughout not just Guyana, Latin America and the Caribbean. And I think what would have compounded Chelsea's, why you want to use the word greatness, even though she's this young, is the fact that it was only 2 wildcard spots offered in the world by the IOC and the ITF, 1 male, 1 female. And her being selected as the only female should be testimony to her potential and what the international body sees in her. Just a reminder, I think folks forget that she would have participated at the Youth Olympics. She is the Caribbean Under-21 champion. She would have played, I think she won the cadet tournament in Canada as well too. So all through the years we've been reporting on how great Chelsea is, but I think sometimes people forgot because now that she's all grown up, and even where she plies her trade in Portugal, she's one of the top players for her club as well. And it's important for other athletes to see that, you know, a company like the Guyana Lottery is supporting an athlete like Chelsea, to let them know that sometimes, you know, people are paying attention, and at the right time you will get that support. It's never too late.
The support will assist Edgell in preparation for the Olympics and the World Championships in November and her return to Portugal. Edgell is the first athlete to be sponsored by the company, and she expressed it was an amazing feeling, given her appeal just a couple of weeks ago for a more corporate Guyana to support sport.
Yeah, I'm very elated, you know, that my cries for over the years have they've been answered, you know, and I'm very grateful again to both the GCTA, the GOA, and now the Guyana Lottery Company for their support. Especially to you, Raltani, because without you, you know, helping and, you know, being there, also listening, giving an ear, and to you, the media, for ensuring that, you know, what I have to say gets out and it's construed the right way. And, you know, I just want to say thank you. It's a great feeling to be heard. It's a great feeling, you know, to be backed by such a company, you know, and it's great to, you know, be able to continue my journey in the sport and to be able to be given the experience, the opportunity to excel beyond.
President of Guyana Table Tennis Association, Godfrey Monroe, indicated this is a great support showing for one of Guyana's elite athletes.
Today it's an auspicious occasion for the Guyana Table Tennis Association. First of all, we'd like to congratulate and say how appreciative we are of the lottery company for coming on board and supporting Chelsea in our quest for preparation to the Tokyo Olympic Games and beyond. For elite athletes, as we all know in the sports media, that corporate support plays a very pivotal role in ensuring that these athletes are supported and able to realize their truest potential. Chelsea represents one of our elite athletes and with great potential and market value. So I think she also has great potential for the future because she's very young.
She was granted a spot at the games through the tripartite system, which only has 2 spots worldwide for table tennis, 1 male and female. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
Senior men's national head coach Marcio Maximo has made 6 changes to his final 23-man squad for the crucial 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against St. Kitts and Nevis and Puerto Rico in early June, and he's confident that they are the right moves to achieve success.
Following a 3-0 defeat to Trinidad and Tobago and a 4-0 win over the Bahamas in March, which left Guyana's qualification to round 2 of the qualifiers in the balance, head coach Marcio Maximo has recalled Stefan Duke McKenna, Kevin Lane and Liam Gordon and handed first-time call-ups to 320 national players. The former youth coach of Brazil was quoted in a release by the Guyana Football Federation as stating, open quote, "My job is very clear, to qualify for the second round of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. I am confident in the players and the squad to deliver this. The domestic group has been working very hard in our intensive training and we are constantly tracking the performances of our non-domestic players. The aim for the non-domestic group is to raise the quality of the team by selecting players who are in full-time professional environments such as Queen's Park Rangers, Watford, Bournemouth and Bolton in England." End quote. 20-year-old Duke McKenna, a former favourite among Guyanese faithful, after several eye-catching displays in a golden yellow jersey, made his first team debut in the EFL Championship side Queen's Park Rangers this year. Defender Kevin Lane, who is just 23 years of age, has recently signed for Jamaica's Mount Pleasant Academy, joining Golden Jaguars goalkeeper Akil Clark in the island's top-flight team. Bolton Wanderers fullback Liam Gordon, age 22, has impressed on loan at 5th tier Dagenham and Redbridge. Javier George, who plays in the French 5th tier, Sanders midfielder Marcus Wilson, and Guyana Police Force forward Usafa Simpson have already made their mark at the international level as part of the recent Guyana 20 squad. Open quote, "We know that Guyana's chances of qualification to round 2 rely results elsewhere, but Guyana Football Federation is confident that this new-look squad, with its strong mix of exciting domestic and overseas-based talent, will put serious pressure on the other teams as we head into the business end of the group," said JFF President Wayne Ford. After 2 matches, Guyana lies in 3rd place in Group F of the first round of CONCACAF's FIFA World Cup qualification process, behind Trinidad and Tobago and group leaders St. Kitts and Nevis. The Golden Jaguars must hope those teams slip up in concluding group matches to secure the top spot in the group and progress to round 2. Guyana will play St. Kitts and Nevis at 4 p.m. on June 4 and Puerto Rico at the same time on June 8. Both matches will take place in St. Kitts and Nevis due to ongoing logistical and regulatory challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
The complete squads for the 2021 Hero Caribbean Premier League, CPL, have been confirmed following the player draft. The 2021 tournament gets underway on August 28 and runs until September 19. Akim Green has more.
The star-studded lineups feature the best cricketing talent from across the Caribbean, as well as some of the biggest names in international cricket. There have been a number of changes to squads this year. Chris Gayle and Dwayne Bravo are teaming up at the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots, with Trafini Rutherford joining them. Kimo Paul has moved to the St. Lucia's Zooks, and O'Shane Thomas will now be representing the Barbados Tridents. The overseas signings include Shakib Al-Hassan, Chris Morris, Faf du Plessis, Matthew Wade, Sandeep Lamachani, and Shoaib Malik. There are spots for the exciting Pakistani players Haider Ali, Azam Khan, and Uzam Qadir, and Englishman Samit Patel will be playing at his first Hero CPL. All 33 matches will be played at Warner Park in St. Kitts, with the final set to take place on September 19th. The Guyana Amazon Warriors squad comprises of Nicholas Puran, Shoaib Malik, Imran Tahir, Shimon Hetmeyer, Muhammad Hafiz, Brandon King, Nabil Ul Haq, Romario Shepard, Wakar Salam Kihil, Chandra Paul Hemraj, Udin Smith, Niall Smith, Godakish Moti, Anthony Bramble, Kevin Sinclair, and Ashmid Ned. The list of the other 5 squads can be found on our website, Newsroom.gy. For the Newsroom, Akim Green.
And that brings us to the end of our newscast. Thanks to our news and technical staff. I'm Kurt Campbell. Take care, and remember to stay safe and get vaccinated.